Greg and Josh are not paid critics. They are not experts, nor do they claim to be. They are just two nerds that love to talk about internet shows. However, they're still going to tell you about what they think. So sit down, relax, and enjoy the latest episode of All Queued Up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of All Queued Up. If you're new to the show, what we do here normally is we review shows that you can find on a streaming service, Netflix, Amazon, HBO Max, Disney Plus, etc. I'm your host, Greg Dietz, and with me is Betty Badger. But I would like to introduce everybody. It is my honor to introduce this person, Maya Dawn Fisher.
Hi.
Clap, 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 clap.
That's me. Freshly emerged into the world as of Friday of last week, on the 18th, which was also our co-host's birthday. And we forgot to mention that.
No, it's okay.
Well, now they know.
She's had plenty of birthdays.
Yeah, I'm level 41 now. It's okay. But Maya's birthday is the important thing.
Yeah, so that was an exciting thing, and we're going to talk about that because, yes, I am transitioning, and we're going to talk about that, and we have someone else here with us as well. Great. Would you like to introduce them?
I don't.
So
Let me just jump in there.
A long friend of mine. I've known Michelle for 6.5 years now. I want to say we've been good friends for that long. Yeah, and we wanted to have a conversation about the trans community. We wanted to have a informational conversation about it. And I thought, perfect. Let's have the two people in my life that I know personally, so the conversation is not terribly awkward. It'll still get a little awkward, I promise. That's not like a be warned.
It's a promise.
It's a promise. How are you doing, Michelle?
Yeah.
It's been a fun few days, but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to finally be able to talk to Maya. So, and it's nice to be on a podcast.
Yeah,
we're thrilled that you're here, and yeah, this is the first time we've actually got to speak in voice chat in a few months. So yeah, that's
not the first time I've had you on the podcast.
It is the first time.
We're almost on our anniversary this next month. I just realized.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
And yeah, goddamn. All right, well, whew. All right. So what I want to start the conversation off with is I want both Michelle and Maya to kind of explain, not explain, that's not the right word. I'll put it this way. My father, he's confused. He wants to understand, he wants to know more. And I want people like him to be more accepting. So the questions I'm going to ask are from him. He and one of the questions that he asked that I thought we could start the conversation off is what's the thought process that goes into making the choice to come out as trans? Because he understands, like you said in the conversation, he understands that it's not like you don't just choose to do it. It's something that's always been inside you this whole time. One of his phrases is, "I can't imagine what it's like to live a lie my whole life." So. But what his question is...
Walk us through your journey to how you got to your authentic lives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
Maya, do you want to start this one off?
Sure. Basically, as far back as I can remember, as early as 4 years old, I still remember vague flashes of things from when I was 3 and 4. One of the things that I remember is I just hated being a little boy. I hated it. I used to pray every night before I went to bed because, growing up in the Bible Belt, it's what you were supposed to do. I used to pray every night before bed, please let me wake up to be a little girl tomorrow because I was supposed to be a little girl. You got it wrong. Did that
That's
for
sad.
years. Years I did that. Would, sneak and put on, like pantyhose and my mom's shoes and prance around the house, and she would catch me and yell at me and tell me there was something wrong with me and that I was sick in the head for it. And, I started believing that there was something wrong with me, so I started hiding it and trying to repress it. It continued all through school, in my teens and high school. Once I was old enough to live on my own, every now and then I would muster up the courage and go buy something from the women's section in a store. It's like, ooh, I like that. And I'd buy it, take it home, wear it in the privacy of my own home. Nobody would know. It was something that I could do and nobody would know about. And then as I got older and, started, wearing a few more things here and there, but Misty and I have been together for 15 years now. And Madison is 13 now. When Madison was born, I remember thinking, I'm stuck now like this. I can never be who I want to be. It's time to just let that dream die. But the longer I went along, the more I was like, this is not who I am. I'm living a lie. Not the fact that I have a family. I love my family very much. I love Misty, and I love our daughter, Madison. But I hated being male. I hated being this big, burly, bearded guy, and I started having conversations with Misty about it. I was like, look, we've talked about this in the past. I really don't want to live as a man anymore. I want to live my life out as a woman. And we talked about it, and she wasn't ready for us to go there yet. This is about 3 years ago. She's like, let's wait until Madison's a little older, because at the time she was only like 9, getting ready to turn 10. She's like, let's wait until she's a little older, because she's young. She might not understand right now. She's like, I'm not ready yet. Think about it. If you still feel this way, we'll revisit it down the line when Madison's a little older, and we'll see what happens. And then a year later, that's when I lost my leg and nearly died. And I kind of put everything on the back burner then, because I realized up to that point I wasn't really living my life. So I wanted to get out and start living again, like truly living and traveling and going places and actually doing things that I'd always wanted to do but made excuses and not done. And once the newness of that wore off, that feeling started to come back. It's like, you're not who you're supposed to be. You don't have any more chances left. So I went up to her earlier this year and I said, look, I still feel like I'm female. I feel female inside. I want the inside to match the outside. And she's like, I know. I was like, what are your thoughts on that? She's like, well, when you're ready to talk to Madison, we can talk to Madison. I said, let's talk to her. So once we got moved and settled in down here, about 2 months ago, we sat down and had the conversation as a family, all 3 of us. And I said, look, trying to get her to open up to us about things, because, she's 13. She's going through a lot of things. She's at that confusing stage of a teenager's life, and they're trying to figure out who they are. And I was talking to her about that, and I was like, you're on a journey, and it's not important to figure out who you are today. You're not going to know who you are for you. You have an idea of who you are and who you want to be. I was like, but some people are still figuring out who they are now. And I was like me, and she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, I probably got more makeup than you do. And she's like, huh? I said, yeah. I said, I dress up as female. I was like, but since the coronavirus hit, you've been stuck at home since March, and I haven't been able to get dressed up and feel like myself in several months. I said, I'm tired of hiding it. I'm tired of hiding it from you. I was like, I want to live my life openly as possible. And it just progressed to the point. It's like, all right, so we can actually all three go shopping in the same department in a store and not feel weird about it. We can all three go out somewhere in public and not feel weird about it. I was like, are you comfortable with that, the both of you? And they were like, yeah. I was like, okay, I'm doing this. And then I found a therapist, because in the state of Virginia, you have to go through a therapist, and then they have to write a recommendation letter with a diagnosis that, yes, this person suffers from gender dysphoria. It is under the recommendation, yada, 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 hormone replacement therapy, all that. Well, next Tuesday is my last meeting, and well, not my last meeting, but it's my last meeting of weekly sessions throughout the month of September. I get my letter next Tuesday, and then I can give to my physician and be referred to an endocrinologist. And that's where I'm at in the journey. I'm at the very beginning. But Friday, the 18th, I decided, you know what? I'm telling the world. And so what I did, I started telling my close friends first. And some have known longer than others. Some, like Betty, she's known longer than Greg. Actually, Michelle's known longer than Greg. Mm-hmm. Because when Michelle came out, I kind of, hit her up and congratulated her. I was like, I'm so happy for you and proud of you. I was like, and then I would just start saying, I've kind of suffered with something like this myself for a while, and shared a little bit with her at the time. And then as it progressed more, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to hit her up and ask her a few questions if she's comfortable with answering, asking about the HRT. And, it's just been a process, but I started telling my close friends and family. And then Sunday, a week ago, I told my oldest sister, she's my younger sister she's the older of the two sisters I have that are younger, told her. And she's like, oh, well. I said, yeah, I haven't told Mom yet. Our mom and my stepdad, her dad, half sister, but I haven't told our parents yet. I was like, I'm trying to find a way to do it. I plan on telling her this week. Okay. Well, then Tuesday I had therapy, and then I told my therapist, yeah, I'm going to tell my mom this evening. I ended up talking to my youngest sister, who's actually going to college and in therapy, or to become a therapist. So she was totally on board and understood and was supportive. So both sisters were supportive. I was like, all right, I just got to tell Mom. I said, I'm going to call her and tell her. And it was at 7:00 last Tuesday evening. Called my mom to tell her. And she's like, oh, I'm really tired. I was getting ready to lay down. I haven't had any rest today, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, I was needing to talk to you about something. She's like, well, just call me tomorrow. I was like, okay. Wednesday, I call her. Yeah, I got this going on. I remember what it was. They had to have an assessor from the bank come by and do an evaluation of their home and property, in case they needed to take out a loan in the future, just to say that it's worth what they say it is worth. And also, there was something else going on. Oh, my nephew my sister's kids, he had gotten some water guns and was running through the house squirting everybody, and my mom had just waxed all the floors. So obviously she was not in the mood to talk then. And I was like, well, call me this evening. She never called back. So Thursday I call. It's like, I'm doing it today because I had it in my mind, 4:00 Friday, I'm going to tell everybody, whether she knows or not. Thursday I call. I have her on the phone. I was like, look, I really need to talk to you about something. She's like, well, I have to go right now. I'll call you tonight. Okay. She never called back. Friday, I tried to call all day. from 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30, 11, 11:30, 12, 12:15, 12:30, 12:45, 1. I was like, she's not answering the phone. She's avoiding me. Or else she's left town, gone out of town, her and my stepdad to go do something because they had my nephews all week with school where they're doing remote learning, and she just wanted a break. So she probably got her phone off. I didn't think anything of it. 4 o'clock rolled around, and I made the public announcement on Facebook to overwhelming support, which was a very, very pleasant surprise because I was sure that I would be facing backlash. I was sure that I would get some negative comments. And here it is almost a week later, 5 days later, not the first negative comment on Facebook on my post. Did have one asshat on Twitter. I don't care. I don't know who that asshat is. No big deal. They're being a troll. Trolls don't bother me. I got thick skin. I knew before I did this I was going to have things like that happen. It doesn't bother me at all. But Saturday morning rolled around, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try to call Mom again. I never heard from her Friday night. I was like, she's got to know by now. My sister sent me a message at 8 o'clock that morning. She's like, hey. I was like, what's up? She's like, I'm going to call you. It's like, okay. She's like, I told Mom. I was like, what did you tell Mom? She's like, Monday night. Yeah. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, when I tried to tell her, she already knew. Yeah. Huh. So she knew. My stepdad, he's handling it better than my mother. They're both confused. They don't understand, but they know they've not said anything out of the way or hateful, which is my biggest fear with my mom, because my mom is very reactionary and has no filter, and she is in her mid-60s and doesn't have a present-day mindset of when it comes to things, and can be very hurtful and ignorant in her statements. So my sister wanted to preempt that because I get very combative with my mother over things, and it could cause a terrible situation that we're trying to avoid. So she had that conversation with her without me, and I'm like, I'm actually grateful for that because it gives her the time now. She can accept it. She's obviously had to have seen the post or the pictures. But yeah, that's it's been amazing. Everybody's been super supportive and happy and just wonderful, complimentary, and nothing out of the way yet. So that's been great, but I know it's eventually going to come, and I just have to look back at everything that stemmed from that and say, look at all this love and support you've got right here on those hard days. Look at this. So I'm going to have that to look forward to.
I think I messaged you Saturday afternoon, and I went, holy shit, you can never say you're not loved and accepted.
Now, that's the thing. I already knew I was loved, but I was loved as who I used to be. That's what I was scared of and terrified of. Yeah, I was terrified of that because especially where I'm such a prominent member in the realm of collectors community, and it's primarily a boys club. Let's be fair. Most people that collect things like nerd related shit are guys, and there's a few females in there. But I was terrified of that because, it was on a couple of podcasts on their YouTube channel that are live shows on camera. And I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, I'm wanting to do this and I still want to be a part of it, but I was terrified, and that kept me, held me back a little bit. But yeah, when Greg, he's like, there's no way you can't say that you're not loved. And I was like, no, that's obvious. And overwhelming support from everybody in the realm that I was terrified of telling. It's been phenomenal, and I broke the news Saturday afternoon. Well, I told everybody last weekend, the weekend prior, in the half-empty Discord, because I was using that and another small group as a testing ground to get a feel for how people were going to react. And it was just overwhelming support, like I should have known. But yeah, I'm very fortunate to be a part of two wonderfully supportive communities and have just a vast network of friends that are nothing but supportive and encouraging, and it's been cloud nine, just total elation for me for about 2 weeks now, really. Well, that's where I'm at, and I know I got long-winded there.
You're fine. Your story is very similar to mine in a lot of ways. But just to clarify, just in case someone else is listening to this show, that if you are trans, like if you have a trans listener by chance, you don't have to have had these feelings your whole life. There are a lot of trans women, and most trans women and men, who feel like they've been in the wrong body their whole lives. But gender is a form of expression, and for me, it was a big question of like, am I a trans woman? Am I a trans non-binary? What am I? Like, obviously I'm unhappy with the way that I'm expressing myself, but like the journey doesn't end once you decide to start transitioning. And I think I'm a little bit further ahead, as in I'm 8 months in on HRT.
Nice.
So and once you start that journey, Maya, I think you're going to find that a lot of your earlier preconceptions of the process, they could be the exact same. You might be know yourself so well that it's exactly the same thing. But for me, there was a really big learning curve of there were some aspects about this whole gender journey that I wasn't planning for, and it's kind of thrown me through a loop in a great way. I love it. It's but
can I ask you a small question just for the audience, for people listening? What exactly is HRT?
Hormone replacement therapy.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what it stands for. Hormone replacement therapy. That's what it stands for.
Yes.
Okay. Like I said, I know these things. I know what HRT is. I didn't know that's what it stood for, if I'm being honest. But I just want people to know what that is.
No, that's awesome.
Most people just say hormones.
Yeah, they change their hormones. Or there's a bunch of fucking excuse me, I don't know what you're
yeah.
I cuss all the time.
Great.
Yeah.
There's an F-bomb. Yeah. But there's
we are rated E for explicit.
Yeah. I have the mouth of a sailor, so don't worry.
Perfect. My people.
I have the leg of one.
You do.
Yeah, well.
Got the mouth, you got the leg. But we both got the boobs, so
yeah.
Because that's some awesome cleavage you got going on there.
Yeah, I have to admit.
Thank you. I got lucky with those.
Even my friend last night, we were playing Fall Guys, and he complimented Maya on that, and I was like, all right.
Yeah, it was so funny. And we're playing, and Andy says, okay, I have to ask, how you already got such great boobs?
So, that one I have to work on. So, that being said, I'm also exceptionally lucky. Like as far as HRT is concerned, it changes a lot of things. There's some things that people assume it's going to change, and it doesn't. For example, like testosterone has done the damage on my voice. Every trans girl has either had surgery or they're basically faking the voice.
Yeah.
But otherwise, body changes are very common, and my favorite thing has been the boobs, because I went from flat to knocking on Teacup's door in the last 7 months. So
hey,
I'm very thrilled with that. But
well, with the hormone replacement therapy for you, how has it affected you emotionally? Because this is something Maya and I were kind of discussing in a conversation earlier this week. You know, because I know as a woman who's been had her menstrual period since she was 10, now I'm 41. My hormones are crazy. I mean, I turn into a beast, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like or what you experience when you've not, when you're first introduced to it, is it like going through puberty in a way?
It's exactly what it is I'm basically going through puberty again in my 30s.
Oh God, girl.
Yeah, it's not great. I'm going through second puberty now. I did one, I didn't like it. Let me try the other one. But no, it's there's a lot of things that are related to that. That's kind of weird. For example, beforehand, my whole life I had anger issues. And it is I don't know if it's associated with like not being able to live myself or just like high testosterone or whatever. Who knows, whatever the fuck it was, but it was an issue. And as soon like literally like within about 2 weeks of taking HRT, and my for HRT is different per like who you go to and like the amount and whatnot. But when I started, I was taking half of a milligram of estrogen. I was taking half of a milligram of spirolactone, which is a testosterone blocker. And I was taking 100 milligrams of progesterone, which is a hormone that girls who are going through puberty create that helps with development.
And pregnancy.
Yes.
I had to have progesterone when I was pregnant because I didn't make enough on my own.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, I'd had 3 miscarriages before, so we went ahead and did progesterone therapy because that was one way of trying to ensure the pregnancy beyond 3 months. So, and it worked. She's here.
Well, like, see, it's a miracle drug.
Yeah.
Like it really is, because like the other two, while they're going to be my long, like they're the marathon, the progesterone is the sprint. And I like my progress is mostly due to the progesterone. But it's a different process, and every 3 months I've gone up. And actually for the last month I started with all pills, but for the last month I've been doing injection of estrogen, which is its own process.
Yeah.
But it has when I started, my anger issues were pretty much gone. Like they just kind of left. And I also realized I had anxiety, but I didn't know it because I had always had anxiety. So once it was gone, I realized I had it.
Yeah, your anger wasn't masking it.
So my anxiety was gone, my anger issues were gone, but now I'm definitely, I've always been in touch with my emotions, but it definitely feels like a deeper feeling than it used to. It's definitely an emotional roller coaster. Stress is hard for me to deal with now. I have to have like moments by myself to breathe sometimes.
Do you cry more?
Oh God, yeah. And I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's the weirdest fucking thing is I love crying now.
Yeah, I cry a lot. And it's like this is my week, so I'm like in cry mode at everything. It's
so that's another mind fuck, by the way, is I have sympathy cramps that line up with my girlfriends.
Oh yeah. Well, even cis men can have that kind of stuff too. They have like sympathetic pregnancies. Their girlfriends or wives, and I've seen it. It's crazy.
I know when Misty was pregnant, I was the one that gained all the weight. I went from 220 to 450 in that 9 months, and now I'm back down to a little over. I'm right out. I've been losing steadily, and I'm down to 280.
Nice.
And I'm trying to get back down to that target area of close to 200. So I'm slowly getting there.
Well, I'll tell you what,
they're going to fuck that up, I'm sure.
Yep, I was just about to tell you, do it now, because once you start HRT, losing weight is like, hey, guess what? Your immediate plateau.
Yeah, and if you look at a piece of chocolate, you will gain 5 pounds.
Yeah, she's not wrong.
I wonder if it'll
It's
make me
been
like chocolate more because American chocolate is trash.
it is trash.
I will only eat dark chocolate.
That's all I
I'm
eat.
very snobby about my chocolate. It has to be dark
Okay.
chocolate. If it's milk chocolate, I won't touch it.
Yep.
So I've gotten really weird. I've always been a big fan of like food textures, but now it's like way, way, way more intense. And I have to have something salty and fried like once a week, or I go insane. So,
Is that tied to this? Because I feel the same.
well, it's like maybe not, but losing it could be just like an offset of me trying to lose weight.
I was gonna say it's definitely there's some weird correlation there for you. For sure.
It might just be me overthinking it. Fuck, I don't know half the time.
You know, honestly, as a woman, you know, who's lived this whole life like this, I can tell you, yeah, your hormones definitely have an impact on what you want to eat. Yeah,
it's had an impact on what I like too. Like some foods taste differently now, and some foods, honestly, I can't tell if it's due to just hormones per se or the fact that my happiness level is way higher than it's been in a long time.
Yeah.
But like some foods are just way better now. So that's a fun side effect.
that is something that I have to weigh in on when happiness level. Since I've decided to do this, that I finally said no more. I'm not going to be scared anymore. I'm going to do this. My happiness level has increased. My anger issues, while I still suffer from anger issues, like you were referring to, I've had anger issues for years and years and years. I'm not as bad with them, and I'm hoping that I have a similar effect when that starts, because I would love to be done with the anger issues, but my happiness level has already increased tremendously, and so my anxiety level, which I've had anxiety for years, we just didn't know it was confirmed until recently to be linked directly because my depression and anxiety because of the dysphoria. But yeah, that I'm happy to hear that your happiness level's at an all-time peak, and I have to think that mine's really right there. The happiest I've been in ages. I can't remember the last time I was happier, with the exception of not dying 2 years ago. And I hope that, you know, it's not gonna. I hope it's just going to be on an upswing from there.
There's absolutely a honeymoon period for like right after coming out, and like so you had a similar experience that I did, where there was just an overwhelming amount of support and love and whatnot. And it's so nice because I like you, I spent a couple of decades knowing what I am but not doing it, you know. And it's funny, the day I came out publicly, Maya hit me up, and she was like, she said it earlier that she was expressing that, you know, she also cross dresses, and I was completely like, what? Like the same thing that I was doing to everyone else, she did to me. And but we had a long conversation, and this is true of you were not actually the only person that came out to me that day, but I have a couple other people. I'm just waiting. I'm like, all right, when are you going to announce your trans now? Because it's pretty fucking obvious to me. But but I'll be honest, like you were my least. You were the one I expected least. I was just like, well, she could just be a cross-dresser, and that's fine. A lot of people in the trans community have weird issues with cross-dressers, but most of us were at one point, so I don't get it.
Yeah.
But
Michelle, your tweet now makes a whole lot more sense.
Which one?
Any other eggs I'm about to crack? Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. That was what you tweeted that Friday, didn't you? I remember that now.
There's a couple other folks who I'm pretty sure are trans that they're going to find themselves on their own time and whatnot. But and like well, same thing with you, Maya. I got to the point where I was like, oh yeah, okay, she's trans, and you can just kind of tell because like your story was so similar to mine, and your experiences were so similar. So I can see how like my situation's not even nearly as complicated as yours. Like I don't have a child, for example, and while I'm in a very long committed relationship, we're not married yet. So it's also like one of those things. But
so I do have a question real quick. That's one of the questions from my dad. Since you mentioned Maya's child, he wants to know, how does Madison now address you?
That's actually something that we've been talking about in the past week. She said, so now that everybody knows, she's like, do I call you mom in public now? I said, I'll tell you what. I said, you can call me Maya, or you can call me anything that makes you comfortable in public. I was like, just don't refer to me, if we're out somewhere, don't yell down an aisle at me if we're spread apart and go, hey, Dad. Don't do that. But other than that, just call me what makes you comfortable. And in the privacy of our own home, when it's just the three of us, call me what makes you comfortable. But in public, if you don't feel comfortable calling me that, call me by Maya. So
yeah, because he was really curious about that because he's known about Michelle for a long time, and he's known other trans people, and talking to me, and me being as internet savvy as I am. So he'd kind of known about that, and he was like, oh, you changed pronouns and stuff like that, but he was like, how do you change that pronoun? So I think that's where he was very confused by that.
Yeah. And, that's something that we're learning as a family. And I actually just started, before we started recording, I had a adult trans group, like therapy group. That is something that I'm hoping to tackle. But, I can't speak for anybody else that was in there. I know that I did mention that I have a daughter, so I'm hoping that is something that I can find out how other people address that, because I'm also into it, not only for support of myself, but also education for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be offering spousal / partner groups too, where I'm going. So,
that's nice.
Yeah, and it's covered by my insurance, so it's just like,
oh, even better.
So if Misty and Madison wanted to attend those, like all three of us as a family, we could do that. Or if they wanted to attend just the two of them without me, they can do that. So I'm really fortunate that I found this place, thanks to a very dear friend of mine who's probably known just about longer than anybody. I think one other person knew before her, but yeah, she hooked me up there, and she's actually a very loyal, long-time listener of the show since our very first episode. So thanks, Chas. I love you. But yeah.
Well, I have two more questions on the list. We'll hit the first one and then the second one. This next one is a little bit more personal, so if you don't feel like you want to answer it, by all means don't. But his curiosity lies in, where does potential surgery play a role, or not having surgery? Like how do you go about that?
Maya, I think I'll start this one off if you don't mind.
I don't. Go ahead.
So every trans woman is valid. Before I jump off, I'm going to go ahead and just start with that statement. So there are a lot of trans women who decide to not do medical transition. Medical transition includes even HRT. So like they were born with a cis male body. They continue to live their life, and their body continues without any feminine additions to their body. They just decide to live the life as a woman, and that's fine. That's still gender expression. But for women like myself, and I'm very much assuming that Maya is also in this route, medical transitioning starts with hormone therapy, which we've talked about quite a bit. But the other surgeries are elective, and certain part, like for me, my main dysphoria is my facial hair and my voice. Those are the two things that bother me the most about my appearance and about my presentation. So those are the areas where, like, I've already been doing laser hair removal, and it's helping out quite a bit. That is technically surgery, and holy shit, it's worth every dime. But the other one that I'm planning on doing is called vocal feminization surgery, and there's multiple ways of doing it. But from what I've noticed, for me, I'm actually going to be going to Korea to get this surgery done.
Wow.
And it's actually going to be cheaper for me to fly to Korea and have it done there than it will be to do it here.
Yeah,
So,
U.S. healthcare system.
yeah, it's not just the healthcare system though, but there's also like limitations. For example, American voice doctors have to make an incision in the throat to be able to do the surgery, whereas there's less restrictions surgery wise in Korea, and they can go through the mouth and make it. There's no incision at all.
Oh wow.
So down
So
to
there
the
would be no
esophagus.
visible scar.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Also, just like looking, my favorite thing was I was talking to Brittany about this, my partner Brittany, and she was just like, she had a very similar question when I came out to her, and I was fucking ready. I've been researching this shit for decades. And she was like, "Oh shit," when she had a very similar question. But a lot of girls go through. They have genitalia dysphoria, and I'm not one of those. I feel very lucky in that regard because that is the hardest and most expensive and the most dangerous. Even though people say it's a very dangerous surgery, it's not, but it is the most dangerous of elective surgeries that a lot of trans women get.
It's also the only one that's irreversible.
Yeah, exactly.
As a cis man, I have been told directly that it is unbelievably and exceptionally rude and not even remotely acceptable to ask a trans woman or trans man like about surgery towards their genitals. It is
it's usually yes, and of course, like Greg and Maya, I've been friends with you for a long time. I would not be offended if you guys asked me about that. And just to completely avoid it, when I came out, I just said, and I believe Maya, you did the same thing, is like, I am not intending on getting surgery, any kind of surgeries. Just to be like straightforward, like people are going to ask this and I want to avoid that awkward situation. So I just threw it out into the wild.
I personally don't give two flying fucks what's between people's legs. Like I just don't care.
It shouldn't matter.
Unless I'm going to be intimate with them, I don't care.
Yeah, it's not my business.
But I know that some people are. So,
well, I mean, on top of that, there's a lot of things like cis people have a lot of issues with their genitalia. It's not ED is a thing. Women have a lot of issues with like presentation as well, and there's way more issues regarding it. And like it's not cool to ask cis people. Another cis person was like, "Hey, how's your vagina today?" Is it
Yeah,
like,
I mean, nobody's asking me. So, are your labia hanging low today?
Yeah.
I mean, that's you just don't ask people certain questions. I mean, if you think it sounds rude, if you just even think what you're about to ask sounds rude, then don't ask it.
I get
it's comfort advice. If you
labias.
can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Yeah, but sadly, people are their curiosity gets the best of them at best case scenario.
It really does.
I kind of want to play the audio that I recorded of my dad asking the question because it's kind of adorable because he's trying his best to not sound offensive.
Okay.
And, here I'll play one that I think is pretty funny. But yeah, he was very adamant. He was like, make sure that like I don't sound bad. And I was like, I'm probably not going to play the audio on the podcast, but
There you go.
I kind of want you to.
Here's Greg making himself into a liar.
Well, the thing is, he is asking good questions that the audience, I think, needs to hear. So, there are other people out there who would have the same question and not realize that, yes, this is very rude. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I salute Daddy Greg for bringing that up.
Before you play that, Greg, before you play that, just to touch on that, as for surgeries myself,
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I mean, obviously I don't need top surgery.
No.
And I addressed it when I came out last week. Bottom surgery, that's something that'll be addressed in the future. As of right now, it's not in the cards, but I'll have to see how I feel about it in a few years. 2 years from now, after being on HRT, who knows how I'm going to feel about that. As for right now, no, it's fine. But my dysphoria areas are I have no hips, and my voice, my facial hair, and my voice. It sucks because I want to soften it, but without invasive surgery, I don't know how to do that. And I'm sure there's some types of vocal training that people like us can look into, but I just don't know without just sounding fake. And I don't want to sound fake. I want to be authentic as possible. So that's something that really bothers me, is the whole vocalization thing.
Vocal training has been one of the hardest things I have ever done. I've done a lot of hard things. And I can show you a couple good starting places.
Okay, because I can tell your voice does sound softer.
Thanks,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
It really does. That is the first thing I noticed when you came in.
We can hold on a second. Yeah, I can change back to my voice pretty easily though.
Wow, that's
so
impressive.
This is my normal voice, and honestly, it's a little bit higher than than normal still, because it's hard for me to go all the way back. But yeah, it's one of those things where you have to learn to talk from your head instead of your chest. And
that's something I meant to message you about a while back. You sent me a video that I can't talk about, but when you sent me that was one of the compliments I'm going to send back to you.
Well, that's very sweet of you. Give me a second. But yeah, going back and forth is insanely hard. But it's doable, and it's one of those things. But basically, I just want for anyone who's listening who's cis, and both of our two cis people here at the podcast, just imagine doing the opposite of your voice at all times.
Yeah,
basically.
see, I have something that we call the daddy voice.
Uh-huh.
That when I'm very serious, I can do a deep guttural. I grew up in the Marines. My dad was a Marine, so
okay,
I could do that drill sergeant yell, and it impresses the hell out of my sister. And I know how that takes its toll on me, just changing my voice like that. And I couldn't do that all the time. Yeah, I imagine it does have to, you've got to consciously think about how you speak.
Nonstop.
And, yeah. So, I mean, that's so much control that you've got to master over yourself. I mean, I'm impressed by it, honestly. I do want to tell you, as a woman as well, a lot of us have facial hair. A lot of us shave our face. We just don't talk about it. And, when it comes to bodies, everybody is different. I have no hips either, Maya. I am built like a brick shit house. I mean, it's just, whoosh, 5 foot tall, just whoosh, it's.
There was something funny I saw on TikTok that I think you guys would appreciate. It was a guy, comes up, he's talking to himself, obviously, but the conversation goes, So I have a question for you. Would you ever date a trans girl? And he goes, I mean, is she thick? And he goes, well, she used to be a he. So, and he goes, you didn't answer my question. Is she thick?
Yeah.
And he goes, well,
she
I mean, that's irrelevant because I'm asking you if you would date a trans girl. And he goes, well, I don't think you're understanding my answer. Is she thick?
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the fascinating things I found out is one of the people who've been very supportive. Obviously, not going to name them by name, but he said, I've dated a couple of trans girls in my life, and their stories are always inspiring. And he said, I just wanted to let you know that I feel yours is uplifting and inspiring too. And he said, I'm proud to know you. And I'm like, holy shit. And then my biggest takeaway is like, he's dated, as in past tense, not just one, a couple. Mm-hmm. I'm like, so, you know, there's somebody just like, yeah, man, fuck yeah. Props to that.
That was a fun thing for me to learn. So like about 10 years ago, oh God, it's been way more than that. It's been 12 years now. 12 years ago, I actually lived in California for a short little while. And when I was there, it was actually my first attempt at transitioning. When I was there, I didn't think of it as me transitioning, but I was playing with gender. I was dressing up at more feminine and sometimes completely infemme. And I was dating a lot of people, a lot of men. I was dating, I had a trans girlfriend at the time. And just experimenting like crazy. And I felt comfortable doing that because I knew literally no one. So I didn't have the baggage of being in the Bible Belt or like I grew up in Mayberry, for God's sakes, like for legit Mayberry. So it was just one of those things where like, okay, I don't have to I don't have to be safe. And that was a big fear, was because I grew up in that point and there was no room. And we had like a couple of people who were gay in my high school and they were tortured. And I didn't want that. So, and even now, like I went back to my hometown this past weekend. I finally got to see, I saw my parents literally for the first time. They've known since April, and I saw them for the first time this past weekend. And I also saw a lot of my good friends from that area. And like I was scared to go anywhere but these few safe spaces in my hometown because I'd be going like I was telling my friends about my story on their back porch, but I could see a stupid fucking police station with their stupid blue stripe flag. And I was just like, cool, don't go over there. Got it. And, and I was just like, it's still scary to go to certain places. And a big portion of like why I feel comfortable coming out now is that I'm lucky that as far as the South is concerned, I live in a very progressive city. And I also came out literally the day after my work went into quarantine. And I was just like, cool, I can do awkward puberty at home. So,
yeah. Now, speaking of small towns, I mean, mine's about as small as they get. I know your town is the inspiration for Mayberry on that show. Mm-hmm. Like, I think my town's even smaller. There's only like 1,400 people.
Oh, yeah, it's way smaller then.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are tiny. And, you know, there are some progressive-minded people. A girl I went to high school with and who I was a former neighbor to when we were in school, you know, has a transgender child. And so she has been super supportive. And, you know, a couple of other people have transgender, you know, teens that in this area. And, you know, more people are more openly about their sexuality, but which is completely different from gender, of course. But back when I was in high school, before the internet, we didn't have an idea of what things were like. I was homophobic. because I didn't know any better, because my only exposure to it was whatever I would see on TV. And then it was my
It's
grandmother.
a survival tactic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was my grandmother who lived in South Carolina. I went to live with her after high school. Her best friend was gay, and I was like, well, this dude's awesome. And that completely just destroyed any homophobia I had. And then, thankfully, the advent of the internet, things have become more normalized. But I'm still in an area where it's, like, ooh, yeah, you going to go to the grocery store looking like that? Fuck yes, I am. And I'll strut. I don't care. I got a leg that can be used as a baseball bat. I'll knock a fucker out. But the fear.
I'm jealous of the special accessories you can do.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I just need to find a fucking little place to put a little, hide some lipstick in there. But
if we can do it,
That's
I'd
what
like to
you
get
do
it
under the boobs.
Yep.
hey,
When
those
you want
aren't.
to hide things, yeah, you put things in your bra under your boobs. But if it's something that you're going to have to hand to somebody else, you keep it on the top. If it's something you want to hide, you put it underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Even I did that this weekend.
always-
I had my ID in my bra this weekend.
Yeah, because when
like
you go clubbing, you don't want to keep a purse or keep up with it.
on top of that, you ain't got any fucking pockets on anything.
No.
What the fuck?
We have no pockets.
Yeah,
We
that's
think about this all the time. Where are our pockets? We used to have pockets. What happened? It's not fair. I think
that's
we
the
need to
real-
take pockets away from men, so they have to wear purses too.
That's the real
I'm down with this
gender
idea.
battle. Is my mic like not picking up my voice? What is happening here?
I heard you.
No, we heard you. We were just.
No, it's the like little circle on my screen. Anyway, making a joke because that's where the real gender equality battle is. Pockets.
It's like a girl's drunk at the bar when she starts touching her boobs because she's looking for something that she can't find, and she's not feeling herself up. She's just looking for something that she can't find. It's somewhere in there. She just don't know where.
I will say that's one area that, like, if I'm having an especially dysphoric day, or actually just about every morning, I wake up and I'm like, oh, holy shit, they're still there. Okay, cool. I can wake up and start the day now.
Yeah, once you had them, they don't go away.
It's great.
Yeah. So you are now forever friends.
So
You
there's
got
one last
names.
There's one last question my dad asked. You guys kind of already touched on it, but I kind of want to see if there's any more information. He asked, where does sexual identity lie with gender identity?
Completely separate.
Yeah, they're two
Completely
different
separate.
things.
That's something that Misty and I, because she was curious about it. She was like, well, what does this mean? I was like, that's the thing, honey. I was like, I'm with you. We've been together 15 years. I was like, I'm attracted to you. I don't want to be with you. I want to live the remainder of my life with you specifically, And as for, I don't want to say too much because she gets embarrassed and everything, but as for sexual attraction, I mean, it's still there. I mean, it's not going anywhere. I didn't do this because, I want to be a woman because I want to be with men. No, because I actually had a friend who was confused when I came out to them. They're like, so are you gay? I'm like, no, I'm not gay. But I guess I am because I'm technically a lesbian. But
and not the gay in the way you mean.
But not the gay for, men. But, and that's something I talked to her about. I was like, some people are going to have a hard time, have a hard time wrapping their head around that, because for so long in society, everything was just all shoved into one little box, either M or F. You're this or you're that. And that's the thing. It's not, your gender does not have to be, or is it tied to your sexuality?
And science backs us up hardcore.
Yeah.
There's also there's a third pillar to this. There's gender, there's sexuality, and then there's sex. And a lot of people tie gender to sex for obvious reasons, because, like, for example, most cis people, the reason why it's tied is because your gender reflects your sex, but the gender norms that we have are just constructs that we've created so that we can easily go, they've got a penis or they don't. So that's like, it is like a kind of a slap in the face on how we have made our culture work together. But it's for a few people like Maya and myself, that's the problem. That's the if gender expression was not as tied to sex culturally, it wouldn't be nearly as big of an issue, I don't think. But it's and with, like Maya said, a lot of younger people in her area and a lot of young people in my area, they've already kind of like, I came out to a couple of young people that I work with. One of my coworkers is 21, and I told her, and she was like, cool, and that was it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, my daughter is going to be 16 in March, and if I need to understand something in this realm, I talk to her because she knows way more about it than I do. Because this is something that children of her generation feel more comfortable with expressing early on. And so she has many friends from many different walks of life. And so, yeah, my kid is my teacher when, I need lessons in that. And, I teach her other things. And they really are different. And I know Maya was talking about, you both were talking about growing up here. And I moved back here at 13. And I do remember where I went to school at in high school. There was a person, we've discussed this before, who they were trans, and they were not treated well. And because they dressed as a woman at school. And, everybody just was so rude to this person. I mean, it was appalling to me. And it was a culture shock for me to come back here to Whitetopia, because this is not what I was used to. And the hillbilly and racist and homophobicness that was just all around, it was very much of a culture shock to me. And I don't know how it would feel to be like that. I mean, it's so hard to be in high school to begin with. And it pains my heart that, you didn't get to experience the things that you should have been able to experience because society said no.
It's unfortunate. But something that it helps me every day is the fact that as far as like video games are concerned, I'm a very public figure at this point. And being out there and being trans, and I'm also I'm very like understanding as far as like cis confusion, because I'm older than most vocal trans people are. So and they don't understand why these old people are having such a hard time with it. And I feel like in a lot of ways that I'm kind of like this weird connection between an older trans generation and a younger one because of that. And I've been just really lucky to like be able to express that and maybe bridge that gap towards people so that later generations don't like have this issue. It's kind of similar. The thing that really like drew me over the edge about my trans discovery, I knew what it was, but the last 3 years I gave up on being trans before I came out. I just was like, it's not going to happen. And I tried to be as masculine as I could. I was just like, let's try this. Let's be a man. Let's just like, I sang the Mulan song. I just was like really trying. And it didn't work. I was the most depressed I've ever been in my life. And but my partner's little sister came out to me as a lesbian. And I was so happy for her, and I was just like, I'm so proud of her. And we had her back, but it was a lot of struggle for her parents, and her mother didn't take it too well. And this was confounding another issue, is that this girl had severe depression. And the combination of which, sadly, she last summer, she committed suicide, and it was a shock. We knew that she was suicidal. She had like kind of tried it before, but we had spent the first half of the summer just like being with her and trying to make her feel better. But while like all the feelings that come along with like something tragic like that happening were still there and valid, one of the biggest things for me was the guilt of not being honest with her, and maybe that could have helped her keep going. I felt a lot of regret and of not telling her my truth and letting her know that she wasn't alone. So after a few months of grieving and a few months of basically beating myself up, I was pretty much like decided, it was like, I need to do this, or I'm not going to, don't want to say I was going to go down the same road, but I was definitely like depressed to the point that I didn't know where else to go. So a big part of the motivation for me was also guilt. And, I feel like I've since coming out, forgave myself a little bit for that situation, but it's been really hard dealing with the fact that not being brave enough at the right time might have cost a life. And I don't blame myself, but sometimes the feeling of blame is there.
I understand. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, me too. But
I remember that. It was so fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah,
still is.
I mean, and it's something still me and Brittany, my partner, deal with all the time. And actually, her mother is the last person I have not come out to. I literally came out to everyone else. But so we're gonna have that fun ride before Christmas sometime. It was funny. She was actually here to pick up
an on-point dress for Thanksgiving.
She actually was here. It was really funny. She came here to pick up her other sister. The girl that died was the middle sister, and her oldest sister was here, and just she's trying to get in cosmetics and cosmetology, so she was teaching me how to do makeup and whatnot. Well, her mom came to pick her up. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I was wearing a shirt, and you could just totally see titties." And I was like, "Okay, time to put on a hoodie." And also on top of that, I had like inch-long acrylic nails. And I was just like, "Oh, okay." So like, I'm walking her through the house, doing my guy voice in a hoodie in the middle of summer, hiding my hands in the pockets. And she's just like, "Oh, you painted this room." And I'm like pointing at things with my elbow. It's really awkward.
That's awesome.
And the whole and on top of that, she made a joke. She was just like, Brittany's late about something or another, and she was like, "Fucking women, right?" And she said it to me, and her sister just started laughing our ass off. She thought we were laughing with her, but we were totally laughing at her.
I do want to say this. You guys talked about coming out to friends and whatnot, and I want to say that if I have any other friends that want to come out to me with anything, I'm totally accepting, and I love that you trusted me with that information. Can you choose a better time?
Yeah, for real, right?
Michelle decided to tell me while I was working, so that was fun to deal with while I'm working. And then Maya decides to tell me like I'm 10 minutes into a new episode of The Boys that I'm watching with my parents, and I'm like, "Mom, can you pause it for like a minute?"
I didn't. Did I even preface it with anything?
No. You're just like, "I got to tell you something." I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And then you told me, and I was just like, "Okay, give me a minute, Mom, please pause."
So if it makes you feel any better, Greg, the way let me tell you how I told Brittany, my partner. So we came back from MagFest, and we were having some serious conversations, and she actually came out to me first. She was like, "Hey, you're only the third person I've ever been with, and I'd been with her for the last 12 years. And she was just like, I want to attempt doing like a poly lifestyle. And I was just like, okay, I get that. I understood her reasoning and whatnot. And I was like, oh yeah, well, while we're talking, I'm a lady.
Fuck yeah.
So we had a very interesting January.
She's
I
like,
bet.
That was just after the first weekend.
Yeah, no, it was the whole month was like figuring shit out. My favorite thing's like she was coming home and she knew I was trans, but because like I wasn't out and I didn't want her to fuck it up at work, we both work at the same place. I was just like, well, let's not even attempt to do the pronoun changes, and I didn't even have a name yet. Like I had an old crossdresser name that was terrible, but I didn't want to use it. So I was just like, let's just wait. Oh, okay. Well, it was Brenda.
Oh no,
Brynda.
one of my ex's names. Whew. That was something. Choosing a name,
It's
I was
hard.
like, yeah, and I hit up a few close friends that knew. I was like, got any suggestions for a name? What's the first thing you think of? What's the first name that pops in your head? And they said, well, it's personal. You got to pick it. And I was like, no, I'm not saying you pick my name. I'm saying you give me some suggestions of names that come to mind. I've got a list too. And once I had compiled of about 20 different names, I just went down, looking at myself in the mirror, dressed up, and I got to Maya, and I was like, I'm done. That's it. I was like, what's a good middle name that sounds good with it? And I was like, ooh, here we go. So
fun thing about the
ahead.
name thing. I think this is really interesting to me that my mom, she has known both of you prior to this, and you both have talked to her. She can't. She literally forgot your dead name, Michelle. Literally. She goes, Michelle. I know, like I call her Michelle, but what was her name before? And I told her. She goes, yeah, I totally forgot what it was. And
That's awesome.
that's awesome.
We were talking about you, Maya, and I said that's gonna happen with Maya. It's just gonna happen. Like I'm gonna keep referring to her as Maya. It's just gonna be a thing. She's like,
it's
yeah,
going
I know.
to be harder. It's going to be harder for her because I shared the name of your brother.
That's right. Yeah.
It'll be harder for her to remember.
She did make a really funny joke the night that you told me, and she goes, "Oh, thank God! Now I know who Greg's going to be talking about when he says Maya instead of Josh every time." Because I'll be like, "I talked to Josh," and she's like, "Which Josh?" now there's no confusion.
That's really funny because we had the same problem at one of my big events where there's like 7 Brians in my camping group.
Oh, Jesus.
And I actually was a part of an event where we played Blades of Steel on the NES to figure out who was the Brian, the main Brian, and everyone else would become other Brian. And I was actually currently the reigning champion when I gave up my name. So I was Brian. And the rest were other Brians. And I was like, you still have to fight me for this name. And then Max Stock got canceled because 2020. So I'm like, it's a whole nother year.
Yeah, they're all still. That's great. They're
like I'm not just
2
giving
years
it up.
of being other Brians, and he's like, but you're not using the name anymore. So
I don't give a fuck.
I still own it. You can't have it.
Right, it's in my back pocket.
Phil, did you guys ever watch The Last Man on Earth?
No.
I can't remember the guy who played him, but his name was Phil.
That's Will Forte.
Yeah, and then this other guy shows up, and his name is Phil, and so they, end up fighting for the name, and the first guy gets the name Tandy, and even though Phil dies later on, they still call him Tandy throughout the rest of the show.
I think his middle name was Tandy. Is what?
It was his middle name.
That's hilarious.
I love Tandy, though. That was a good show. I like that show.
Got canceled way too early.
It did. It was funny.
I do have one last fun story about my name, though, real quick. So, my old name was Brian, and I really enjoyed the alliteration of Brian Belcher. So took me forever to decide on a name because I wanted a feminine B name. And I didn't like any of them. On top of that, my partner's name is Brittany, so that's immediately off the table. And I got really close to actually deciding on the name Bailey, but I didn't go with that for two reasons. One, like the biggest trans porn star in the world, her name's Bailey, and I was like, okay,
Bailey
well,
J.
I don't need that. Yep. So I was like, don't need that. But what really was the final kicker is that I told Brittany I was thinking about going with Bailey, and she was like, finally, I can drink you out of a shoe. And I was like, okay, nope, not that one.
Well, thanks for that, Brittany. Scratch that one off the list.
But also, names are also not that serious. I literally had a Beatles song stuck in my head. That's why I picked Michelle.
Oh, really? We're big Beatles fans over here, so...
I actually go by Belle as well because of that song.
Well, I told you when you first came out as Michelle, I was like, well, one of my friends, that's her name, and it's actually my daughter's middle name because we named her after her.
Oh, nice.
We call her Shell Bell.
That's awesome.
But picking my name, everybody was like, well, do you want to stick with a J name? I was like, no, why not? I was like, well, for one, I've dated just about every girl that has a J name, and I'm not naming myself after a damn ex. I was like, I'm still friendly with several of my exes, still friends with several of them because it's a small town. I don't want to say, oh, hey, by the way, you're going to call me by your name now. No.
Yeah, that's just weird.
Yeah. So I was like, well, Misty and Madison. I was like, what about an M name? We'll have be the trio of M's. So,
I do find it funny that you, me, and one of our other friends all chose M names.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was pretty wild.
I think I typed in that chat. I was like, my friends are awesome.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, now I get that joke.
At first I thought he was just trying to do a stutter.
I thought he was doing Lady Gaga shit over there. I don't know.
Like he was stuttering because he was crying, like my friends. And I was like, okay, emotional Greg. But now I see that it was a joke. Gotcha.
Well, that's why nobody laughs at my goddamn jokes.
Tell better jokes. I tell you that all the time.
Maya?
Yeah.
How about that? Let's stop.
Anger, the quickest way to not thinking about what you're about to say.
Every week for the past 2 years, that's usually been followed. Swear to God, podcast canceled. That's where he was going with it.
Yeah,
but it's a running gag. I have to make him do it.
All right. Well, in that case, podcast canceled.
Nope, because we got a 3-year anniversary coming up in 2 weeks.
No kidding.
Jesus, time flies.
No joke.
I know.
It has been a ride. Well, on that note, why don't we go ahead and wrap this puppy up?
That's illegal in most states.
We'll go ahead.
It's frowned upon in the rest.
Jesus.
I wrap my puppies up all the time.
Oh, thank you.
Well, yeah, I do too, but
mine are free flowing right now. I'm wearing a sweater. It's great.
I was gonna say, calm down, Jerry Lawler. All right, that joke apparently did not land.
I don't go anywhere.
In the Attitude Era of the WWE, whenever a female wrestler came out, Jerry the King Lawler would be like, "Puppies!" because that's what somebody called their tits once, and that's just how it was.
It was the Road Dogg talking to Deborah McMichael. He's like, "Why don't you unleash them puppies and let us see them?"
Yeah,
and that's how
all the time. I'm one of those girls that I do not go out in public without a bra on. And as soon as I get home, it's the first thing that comes off. It's just, flinging it across the room. But yeah.
Oh my God. That was what my girlfriend told me. She was just like, you're going to love coming home and taking your bra off. And she was not wrong.
It is one of the best feelings in the world.
It is.
I could experience that if I wanted to, but I don't want to. So
it really is. It's like, when you've had your shoes on, you've been walking all day, and you finally get to take your shoes off, and your feet feel good. That's what your boobs feel like when you take your bra off after wearing it for 12 hours.
That makes sense.
I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to get really a little dirty here, if that's okay. Maya,
Yeah.
Once you
Go
start
ahead.
HRT, guess what? The orgasms are way better.
Awesome. That's
Was
good
not
to know.
expecting that. I was
It's
not
way better.
And see,
That's-
what's the great thing is, there's no. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna make that comment on air.
Let's go
I'm not
ahead.
gonna make that comment on air. I want to stay married.
Sorry. Yeah, we could go real in deep on that conversation.
Hey, stick around for some reviews.
All right, so let's dive into the boys discussion this week. This is episode 4. No, is it 5?
5.
5.
I watched it when
Yeah.
it came out on Friday, so my brain is like, oh, I don't know which episode it was. I do have to say before we start, Betty, your adverseness to sex scenes for both shows.
I know. Really triggered this week. No, it's like last night. We waited till last night to watch Lovecraft, and during that one scene, I was going to fast forward, and then I was like, no, I can't. This is integral, so I had to back it up. And kid walks in the room at that time, and I was like, nope, you gotta go. You gotta go right now, So yeah, she just went straight back to her bedroom. She knew exactly what was about to happen.
The other day I went because there's only like a few theaters open still, and they have like strict like social distancing rules. So I'm cool with going to a theater right now. And I went and saw Tenet. And before the movie started, my buddy goes, "So is Boys like okay for the kids to watch?" And I just went, "Hell no,
No.
hell no."
No.
This episode cements that shit hard.
And that's the thing, my kid she's going to be 16 in March. So, I don't mind her coming in and out because I do typically tend to fast forward through these spots, just even if I'm by myself, because it's just me, and so if your kid's a teenager, it's up to you. But I would say anybody under 10, definitely not. Do not expose your children to the show ever. At that age, definitely wait until they are way older, because there's some concepts you don't need little kids to be seeing, even without the sex scenes.
And I also think that little kids are also going to be a little bit too young to get the themes of this show, where, like, for me, an older person, for Maya here, who's been also reading comics from a very young age, we know these characters inside and out, and we. Like, I think I don't know if that's a layer for you, Betty, but it's definitely a layer for us where we kind of know the silliness of what a real life Superman would be like. So seeing this and kind of having that contrast is great. Again, I don't know how much you know about the comics and like not the boys comics, but Superman and Batman and all that stuff. And
I know a very basic amount. Again, I'm not stupid to this stuff. I have done like free comic book day events a lot. I travel within these circles. I watch the movies when they come out. I just don't typically tend to go, oh yeah, I love that movie. But I know about it, for the most part. And if I find something interesting, I will look it up. It's like we've been watching Watchmen, and I don't really know anything about that. Jeff does, surprisingly, but I don't. So, I'm more interested, and I want to look some things up, which I will be doing after we watch the final episode tonight of season 1.
Season only.
Season
Sadly.
only?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Oh,
They said they weren't.
Oh.
Well, here's my thing.
My heart.
Before you get too upset,
the showrunner said that he was only doing the one season, and the HBO said, okay, then we're not going to do another one. But the option is there if somebody else wants to come in and pick it up and do another season of it. But
I don't think
for the most part, it doesn't. But I would enjoy one.
Does it wrap it up at least?
Oh, yeah.
Succinctly in the first season?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, then I can be okay with that as long as they don't leave like a big open-ended hole.
There's a couple ambiguous questions not answered, but the comic did the same shit. So it's
I can live with that. Yeah. Okay.
I like a few ambiguous, like I said, I watched Tenet, and I was really hoping for another ambiguous ending similar to Prestige or oh my god, the dream movie that I can't think of, Inception. If you're curious what I'm talking about, the ambiguous part of Prestige is whether Christian Bale's character had a twin or a clone. And the ambiguous part of Inception is whether Leonardo DiCaprio's character was still in a dream or not at the end because of the top on the table.
Yeah. That was a good movie.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Tenet's also fucking fantastic. I know we're not talking about Tenet and we're talking about The Boys, but Jesus Christ, Tenet's awesome. That being said, the Watchmen has a few of those ambiguous like maybes, and I really enjoy that because then that's like discussion. But the reason I was mentioning the whole thing with the comic book correlation is that one of the things that always drew me into The Boys and that other one, The Pro, was I always felt like it was like something a little bit more special for me because I was like, oh, I know these characters super well. And I know how silly Superman is when it comes to the fact that he, conveniently landed in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Kansas. And how American he is. Like I've always kind of known that regardless of enjoying it or not. So that's what I've always enjoyed about this. It feels like a parody, if you will. And this season so far has gone, yeah, we really enjoy that, but now let's dive into the characters versus just making them a parody.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the longest way around a bush I ever went to get to a point. I apologize.
You're good. So
I'm processing that phrase. The longest route you've ever taken around a bush to get to a point. Huh.
Because you take the, if you go around a bush, you're taking the long route. You're taking too long.
What kind of
you can.
Got?
I mean, really, you're supposed to prune your bush.
I wasn't talking about the one above my dick.
I wasn't either. I was talking about real bushes. I'm sorry. The bushes where we're from are some serious shit. You walk around them bitches, you don't go through them.
Yeah. But they need to be pruned and maintained. I have no idea why you decided to go the manscaping route.
I don't know. I just thought it was funnier.
I mean, it wasn't not funny.
Yeah,
triple negative there.
Today, Greg.
It's funny. My mind is not there, but it did went there. It did.
Right.
It did went.
We are rubbing up.
It did went. That's a new contraction for you out there.
I haven't eaten today, so I need to eat food. But are
you still white girl wasted from the White Claws last night?
No, but
no.
I think it's more so that I didn't sleep in like my bed. I got 6 hours of sleep. I should be fine, but I think
you
my
sleep
brain
in Andy's bed with Andy.
I cuddled with him. I was clearly Big Spoon. Andy, if you're listening to this, I was Big Spoon.
Greg,
to be the little
I hate to say this, but I would love to see the motherfucker that would make you the little spoon.
I had to go to prison for that, I think.
Yeah, no shit.
Anyway, so The Boys is a good show.
Yeah.
It is. It is a lot of fun. This episode especially. I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, I'm really curious what is going to happen between Stormfront and Homelander.
They will fuck each other to death.
Well, to the brink of anyway.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Well, because she's clearly, and I'm just curious if she's going to turn him full on evil.
Because he's right on the cusp. He is on the cusp of breaking. And I made a terrible, horrible mistake this afternoon or this morning. I I looked up and read information on Black Noir. If you don't want to spoil yourself, I'm not spoiling it. Greg probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. Black Noir in the comics.
Look it up.
I just wanted to know more about him, and I looked up information on Black Noir and regret doing it.
My dad literally keeps asking, I want to know more about him. Greg, what do you know about him? And I'm just like, he's just another part of the boy, or the seven. Like, he's not, you're thinking too deeply about him.
Well,
I'm lying.
But he does pique your interest, man. I mean,
sure. If they follow the comics with his story arc, it's going to blow everybody's goddamn minds.
Yep. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Let's hope that happens.
I'm intentionally trying to get people off the trail because
it's huge, and that's the kind of spoiler. I did it myself. I shouldn't have done it. I did it to myself. I would be angry if somebody said that's a huge one.
It's funny. Some people might consider you talking about it a spoiler.
They may.
Speaking of Black Noir, did y'all find it hilarious? Because I found it hilarious when they called in, they had the gas leak thing called in, so they didn't have to go deal with Black Noir. He's on top of that roof. He stuck out like a sore thumb. How did nobody see him?
How often do you look up?
I look up all the time.
You're 5 feet tall.
By birds.
Yeah, but okay, from your perspective, can you see on the other side of rooftops? Are you going to see somebody's head that's in all black when there's all kinds of other shit going on? Nobody's paying attention to the rooftop across the street. They're paying attention to the fire department and the fire trucks and the flashy red lights and the sirens and everybody out in their bathrobes on the yard.
Yeah, maybe that's my cop daddy perspective. I don't know. I look everywhere. I'm that bitch who goes in a restaurant and has to have the seat that faces the door so I can see who's coming in and how to get the fuck out of there as quick as I can.
Being close to Sacramento and my brother living in a kind of shitty neighborhood, like I've gotten used to doing that as well. But I will say most people don't do that, especially if you worked retail where people just, don't look up at signs. So I get what Maya's saying, but also.
And maybe it is because I'm short. I'm just used to constantly looking up. I mean, when you're 5 foot tall, you're always looking up.
Well, you're not wrong, but how often though, when you're just, say, for instance, out in the neighborhood, out in your yard, how often are you looking at the tops of the houses, like seeing if anybody's on the rooftop peering over at you?
Well, I'm not looking to see if people are peering at me, but I do a cursory glance of everything around me. Again, I've got some major issues, and how I react in my environment shows that. I mean, I almost took a woman's hand off one time. She came up to me in a bookstore and tried to put my tag in. I didn't know her. Apparently, my tag was sticking up out of the back of my shirt. Yeah, little old lady. I had no idea. As soon as I felt that hand there, I just took her arm and twisted her around, and she's like freaked out. And I'm like, "Why are you touching me?"
Well, that's something that you should announce. Like, excuse me.
Yeah.
You don't just go up and touch somebody. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. I got some major issues, some PTSD. So I do. I'm on high alert all the time.
But your average person
is not
going to be on high alert, especially when the other excitement of fire and rescue being out there.
I mean, to be fair, Billy barely noticed him until they got into the car.
And the only reason he did is because he's on high alert.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because Mother's Milk and Huey didn't.
No. And they were absolutely on high alert.
Yeah.
And they, when you hear them talk about all the steps they took, switching out cars, taking non-toll roads, making sure they weren't followed, they were super careful. They're going to be on an extra high alert. So when they see they weren't followed, of course, they're not going to think to check on a rooftop right across the street. because they think they got there safely. They didn't think anybody was already there.
Well, this is where people should use the zombie advice of the double tap. Just because you think you're safe, you need to go ahead and check twice.
Yeah.
Also, point out that I kind of like how Giancarlo Esposito, Jesus Christ.
Giancarlo Esposito.
I like how he's
Esposito.
kidnapped as the most imposing motherfucker since Breaking Bad.
Dude, he plays such a wonderful villain in every series I've ever seen him in.
1,000%.
He just does villain better than anybody. I'm sorry. That motherfucker. And, you know, it's sad because it means he's probably going to be typecast as a villain for the rest of his career, but he does it better than anybody.
To be fair, as like for that type of typecasting, he's got to be having a ball though, because I've
absolutely.
I've done a few theater-based things, and playing a villain is way more fun.
It absolutely is, and especially when your character portrayal is so good that the audience hates you, that's when you know you're doing good.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, think of it from the wrestling standpoint of like people who play heels always have more fun because they get to get a rise out of the audience and
exactly
they get to do a little bit more. Like wrestlers have been in interviews and they're like, when I was a heel, I had more fun. John Cena wanted to be a heel for so long, he just couldn't. He literally couldn't. He tried and he couldn't. People just didn't want to hate him in that fashion. But I can't imagine how much fun he's having with this role and the role of Mandalorian. Like, what a lucky dude.
Is he on that too?
What's that?
Yeah.
Is he on that as well?
He is.
Cool.
He's only in like the last 2 episodes of Mandalorian, but
yeah,
he'll be a more prevalent role.
He'll have a more prevalent role in the next season that comes out next month.
Excited.
I'm very excited.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of anything else that happened noteworthy in this episode.
Well,
I gotta ask, what do you guys think Stormfront's long end game is?
God, I don't know.
I am so confused with this woman. I'm not really sure.
I like how how Huey likened her to being shuffled around by Vought, like a Catholic priest being shuffled to a new district.
Yeah.
So she's clearly been around and been protected for a while, and she's been, rebranded with a new identity.
Yeah.
So nobody knows who she used to be. And apparently she's pretty racist.
Yeah.
That was made evident, with her conversation with A-Train. Also made evident, further with her conversation with Starlight. But yeah, I'm interested to see where she's going.
Because it's not clear if she wants to destroy the 7, or if she wants to be a part of the 7, or if she wants to utilize the 7 to take over the world, or if it's to get it's just so unclear what her end game is, and that makes her even more terrifying.
Oh, she's protected by Edgar. I think she's absolutely protected by Edgar, and she's in on it with Edgar. Whatever it is, he's behind everything.
Edgar's the one playing by Esposito, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Names. I had to
his name in the show is Stan Edgar. Yeah.
Okay.
That's my theory. But yeah, man, when Homelander, he's so frustrated because his view in the eyes of the public is going down the toilet, and when he imagined that he just started laser eyeing the crowd and just cutting them down. That was so cool.
I was hoping that was real. I wanted that to be real so bad.
Could you imagine? That would have... I think we're too early in the season for that kind of mass destruction just yet.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, too, that would unite the entire world against him in particular and against Vought. That would be something on a catastrophic level. So to see him get frustrated and go to her for help, and seeing her help pay off, and then them rewarding each other in the fashion that they did.
Oh, by the way, looking at Gian Esposito's IMDb, apparently he played Lex Luthor in the Harley Quinn show.
Really?
Which is fantastic. I need to continue watching that show. I watched like the first half of season 1. Yeah, it's the stuff with like A-Train has been interesting. With him like getting kicked out of the 7 and now trying to figure out how to get back into the 7, but like I wonder what he's gonna do, because if he does full on get kicked out of the 7, which it seems like it's gonna be, like, is he gonna team up with the boys? Like, how is that gonna work? And again, that's totally different than the comics. So
I wonder how that would work, because he killed Huey's girlfriend.
Yeah, I don't think that would be accepted. I think they would probably try to find a way to take him out. Be one less soup to potentially get in their way.
That's how Butch would feel.
Yeah. But I'm so fascinated with you actually get to see Black Noir do some things, and it's obvious where he is a parody of. He's essentially Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe.
It's funny because he's supposed to be a parody of Batman in the comics.
Oh,
he's supposed to be, but I'm sorry, Batman. Even though it's glossed over a lot, he does have the martial arts and training and skills of a ninja. Batman is quiet, but Batman does talk. Batman sometimes kills depending on the continuity of the story, if it's a one-off or,
Yeah, I agree with you.
The look and the mannerisms, everything Snake Eyes down to a T.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing. What about the Scientology, the link there? This religious thing. I mean, it's obviously a play on Scientology, and I'm laughing every time it goes to that. Is this part of the comics?
In a way, what I'm hoping is that, because one of the things about Garth Ennis' writing is that he does not like organized religion. He really hates it. He says that it's a scourge on society, and like the preacher and not the preacher, just preacher and Crossed are very much in that vein of just like it's all bullshit. And it's certainly seeming like that this religious organization just wants to do, like, they're being controlled by Vought. They're 100% being controlled by Vought for the middle America kind of crowd. That's kind of how, like the guy that shook the Deep's hand in that little commercial they had. He reminded me of what's that guy's name that he didn't want to open up his church to victims of a hurricane? The fuck's his name?
Joel Osteen.
Oh yeah.
Fucking scumbag.
He reminds me of Joel Osteen. Like, people are coming into the church and they're hungry, and the Deep is handing them books.
Yeah. That was some fucked up shit. I was like, oh my God. But I
was told there would be food.
So I'm not particularly fond of organized religion myself. So again, this whole thing I'm finding, just highly amusing. I've never seen anything like that introduced into a comic book line story. So it just blew my mind. And every time it just seems to get funnier and funnier. They're just doing more weird shit with it. And I'm like, yep, that totally is it. Yeah.
I think that's what I love about it so much, is that it's, as much as I love my Marvel and my DC and all that stuff, it's to basically tell it in a way, fuck you. Like, this is what it would actually be like, and what you're watching is a total fucking fantasy. I love that shit. Like, super happy it exists.
So the guy who did The Boys, he also did Preacher?
Yep.
Yeah.
I loved Preacher. I loved Humperdoo. Jesus. He was just bless his heart. Yeah.
So side fun little story for Preacher. I love this little story. So back when I was reading Preacher for the first time, so this is like 12 years ago, give or take, maybe further than that. I had a friend that I worked with at Walmart, and there was one time before we got to be really close friends. I was talking to him about an episode of Penn and Teller's Bullshit, where they went over creationism and how much bullshit it is. And I'm just like, and these creationists believe that dinosaurs existed when humans did, and blah, 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 blah. And the whole time, the whole drive home, which is a solid 15 minutes, right? I'm just going on about it. He pulls up to my house and he goes, Greg, I'm a creationist. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to offend you. And he was just like, it's fine. We don't have to agree on religious stuff. We can still be friends. I was like, cool. I'm glad we see that. So months later, I'm reading Preacher, and in the comic, it gets to the part where it's, the inbred son of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and how he's like, again, he's mentally challenged to the sufficient degree that he like drinks his own piss. And my friend just goes, can you stop talking about it? It's extremely offensive to me. It's so bad right now. Like, I'm just getting angry that this comic even exists. It's like, all right, I am sorry.
Oh, he must really not like the show.
I don't think he's ever seen. I haven't talked to him in years. Like, I was at his wedding. His wife moved to Lake Tahoe, and I haven't heard from them in a solid 3.5 years now, maybe longer. So I have no idea. But I always remember that because I was like, I always thought to myself how interesting it was that a fantasy story that has to do with religion could be that offensive. But I guess that's Garth Ennis's point. And I know that there are comic book fans that hate the Boys comic because it makes fun of these superheroes, these well-loved superheroes. And it does more so in the comic. Like, it's more of like a direct parallel. I know that in the comic, when it comes to certain characters, like, their backstory is borderline identical to Marvel characters or DC characters. Whereas in the show, they don't really go into backstory as much because they're just like, oh, they're all made by Vought.
Yeah.
So this show doesn't. It's not as clear. It's not as clear that it's a direct parody. I mean, Homelander and Mauve, obviously.
There might have been some legal issues that they might have run into with television show. I don't know. I
mean, there might be. I know that Amazon said no to a scene of Homelander standing on the top of a building at the very first scene of episode 1 of season 1, where he's literally jacking off onto off the top of the building, going, "I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can do whatever the fuck I want," and then he comes. Like, that was an actual part of the script, and they said no, that's too far.
I have to thank them for that one. That's a visual that will be now in my head forever.
Because it makes sense that Homelander would do that. That's
I'm sure he is off camera.
Yeah. The way that it was supposed to be filmed was you never saw his dick. You just saw his back and his pants down, so you saw his ass and his hand down there. You never, but
I've never seen so much man ass in my life as I have in the past.
Oh, it looks like somebody hasn't watched Game of Thrones then.
Oh, I have seen Game of Thrones. I read the books when I was pregnant with my daughter, so 16 years ago. I read the books. When they came out with the show, I liked the show, but again, it was the same issue of there's a lot of shit there. It's just like, damn, this is so gratuitous, and it was so gratuitous in the books as well. So, but at least I could skip those scenes,
One of my favorite criticisms of the books is that George R. R. Martin does not know how to write women.
No, he doesn't. He really doesn't. He's not good at it, and he could have definitely taken a page out of Robert Jordan's book when it comes to writing women, because he does not write women well. That's when I gave up on him, is after the whole Dance with Dragons and how he was having Daenerys flip-flop like that. I was like, man, this is just not realistic. We don't go from simpering wench to, empowered queen like a she's acting like she's seriously bipolar and needs some medication. Okay, this is not how women typically act.
One of my things that I wanted to see her do in the show that they kind of went too fast was her because they talk about how her father wasn't crazy at the beginning and then went crazy after he became the king, which made him the Mad King, like it was a disease of some kind. And I wanted to see that, but that's clearly not how they wrote it. So
that last episode was absolutely, well, the whole last season, let's face it, it was horrendous. They were rushing through it. That's why we see Starbucks cups in those scenes and stuff. They just totally screwed it up.
It was arguably the rushing part that made it not great.
Yeah, I was like, that's it. This is what you have to offer? No, man.
like the battle with the night people. I can't. What the fuck was their name? The night.
The White Walkers.
The White Walkers. Thank you. That battle should have been like 4 or 5 episodes, not 1.
Oh God, yeah. And again, there's so much more to that. They just screwed it up.
So, all right. Well, why don't we give our final thoughts on this episode of The Boys? I guess we can give it a grade if we want on this specific episode. Maya, why don't you go first?
I thought it was fantastic. A fun little episode. You got to see Black Noir showcased a little bit, which was nice to see. You got to see Kimiko. She's gone off and doing her own thing, and Frenchie's frustrations with it. You got a little bit of a spotlight into each character and what's going on. And, I mean, come on. Who doesn't love a dog's fuck pig? I mean, really. This episode was a lot of fun. Really curious to where it goes next. Really pissed at myself for looking up information that I shouldn't have. Don't spoil yourself. Don't look it up. Enjoy the show. And, I give this one an A.
All right. Betty?
I had to say I really like Butcher's aunt. She's badass, and I aspire to be that badass when I'm her age.
Hell yes.
I definitely give it an A. Again, they do not fail. They keep bringing something new to the table every time. And again, the whole Scientology angle is just cracking me up. I love it. I'm looking forward to more next week. What about you, Greg?
I mirror what you guys said. Like, I love that they're taking parts of the comic and kind of expanding on them, but also at the same time, like, keeping me on my toes, because there's stuff that they're changing. I've argued this time and time again. I hate direct adaptations, genuinely, because I've seen it, I've read it. I don't need to experience it again. So this show kind of going, we're going to do a slightly different story, but it's going to keep the spirit of what the fuck is going on, and superheroes ain't shit, and I love that. So. This episode definitely cemented that with the downfall of Homelander's psyche and him finding another person that kind of agrees with him. I love the phrase "laser my tits." That was fantastic. As a villain, Homefront is just perfect. I fucking
Stormfront.
Stormfront. What did I say? Homefront? Jesus.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're going to make. They're going to make a little Homefront.
That's their couple name.
They make 50 Shades of Grey look tame.
No shit. Just punching each other into the goddamn wall.
Right.
Oh, if they fuck, they could level the whole city. But I'm really excited to see like the expansion of it. I was in the comic. There's a lot of stuff that happens with the boys and the Seven that prevents the Seven from doing anything to the boys. So I was really happy to see some of that in this episode of like, I have information that's going to keep us safe. Go fuck yourself. I was like, that's great. So I'm more than happy with how this show's planning out, and I give this episode an A as well. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move over to our other show that is not. I guess HBO Max is a streaming service, so we can count it in that regard.
Yeah.
But
you can get it on Amazon as well, and you can get it on Hulu as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about Lovecraft Country.
Yeah, you can get it on Hulu. You can get HBO Max on Hulu, and you can also get it on Amazon now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've got HBO Max through Hulu at the moment.
Yeah, that's how I'm watching Lovecraft Country is through Hulu as well. All right. Well, this episode was certainly fucking different. Episode 6, right? 6 or 7? 6?
Yes, 6.
6. Yeah, and it was.
I was
But
not.
it wasn't different in a bad way though.
Oh
No.
no! It was arguably the best episode since episode 1, in my opinion. I was
Yeah.
thoroughly enthralled this whole episode.
Yeah.
I have to say, I was enthralled, and I was also very taken aback by some of the things that happened, that occurred. You know, it really kind of shook me a little bit.
As in,
Atticus and his actions when we first are introduced to him in this episode, when he first comes into it. Yeah, that shook me.
Gotcha.
I was not expecting that.
Well, I mean, he had talked about how he had to do horrible things in the war and he wasn't proud of it and it haunted him. You know, you actually see that in action and it's absolutely horrible, you know, and that's just a glimpse of what he had to do, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I kind of I'm really happy they showed his almost his entire time in Korea. But it's also a bit it's interesting to me because my dad's dad, my grandfather, my dad's side, he was in World War II. He was in a battle in South Africa. I'm not 100% sure, but he was a tank. He was in a tank. They come over a ridge, and there's a whole bunch of German tanks there, and the whole tank battle started, and my grandpa almost died. That's a story for a different time. Like my dad's been documenting it. It's pretty interesting. But my grandpa on my mom's side was in the Korean War. I don't know much about the Korean War because that's not well documented on my mom's side. Like I know about it from history books and stuff like that, but to the extent that this show kind of showcases it, I was like, that's fantastic because how many movies and TV shows do we have that take place in the Korean War?
Well, you had MASH.
Yeah, I was about to say, we used to have MASH. That was a good show.
Yeah, but MASH ain't enough. And
No,
I think that
it's not.
And it's been gone for 40 years too.
Yeah.
I was just so happy that this took place during that time and really showcased how awful some shit was over there, and even outside of the whole like fantasy aspect of it, the horror fantasy of it, which by the way was visually fucking awesome.
Yeah, and the creature that they referred to, the Kumiho, that's actual Korean
folklore.
Folklore, yeah.
Yeah, that she is so pretty. Oh, yeah. I just couldn't get her.
Oh, absolutely.
She's so pretty. I loved how you go in that first scene and she's sitting in that theater and she starts dancing. And I was just like, oh, I found my girl. She was, you know, and
then to see how she's rejected because she embraces the American culture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And, you know, also, you know, how the story of her unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is heartbreaking, not just for her, but for her mother as well. You know, I feel bad for her mom. I feel bad for her. I mean, I feel bad for everybody involved.
But there's a lot of unanswered questions by the end of that story, too.
Oh, well,
yes.
Yeah.
Which I love.
You know, we knew that Atticus wasn't going to die because, of course, he's in the future. You know, so we were very curious to how that was going to go down. That was fascinating.
Well, we don't know how far ahead she's seen either.
No.
Because I think some of those things we saw in her insight into his timeline, I think some of those things were scenes that have been filmed that we have yet to see that we will see being played out.
Yeah,
there was one where he was bound and it looked like he was being tortured.
Yeah. I'm sure that'll come up in a like late episode, not next episode, but like I'm talking about like 9,
probably
10,
like whatever the next to the last or the last episode is.
penultimate. I'm assuming penultimate, but I could be wrong. Well, now it's got me curious. Like, was that vision that we saw of him that at the very first thing we saw in the show, like how much of that was real and how much of that was fake?
That's an interesting thought. Because I just always assumed that it was a dream.
But
Yeah.
at this point, what do we know exactly?
That's true.
That I'm like, oh, this is good. This is great. This is so good. No, this episode also had a lot of very well done visual effects. So something that I really enjoy with my horror, and I think that I don't know if you two will agree with me on this, but when there's viscera, like a bullet to the head with an exit wound isn't clean.
No.
So seeing the two nurses on the ground after being shot in the head, and seeing their like brains next to them, I was like, that's an extra touch that I really appreciate.
It reminded me, because of the pink coat probably, but it reminded me of like a Jackie Kennedy moment. When I did that pink coat with, the blood and brain on it, I was just like, wow, this is really reminiscent of that. I don't know if it was meant to be, but it was.
I mean, I see that. I don't know if it was either, but I totally agree with you on that. Like, yeah, damn, wow. I didn't think about it at the time, and I'm thinking about it now.
Yeah, it was just, it really stuck out to me. I was like, this is so, did they mean to do this, or was it just, one of them coincidence things? I don't know. We'll see. But the whole storyline in this one was heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This was like, this whole episode could have been in its own movie and been just as impactful.
Yeah. I agree with you on that.
I also like how, unlike other shows and other movies that I've watched, I like how when like they didn't just have the characters speak with a Korean accent, they were speaking full Korean with subtitles.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. That also cemented it in a sense of reality. I was like, thank you.
Yeah,
So-
I like that whenever they do that in shows and movies, because I'm like, why is everybody foreign talk with an English accent? Yeah. That's typically how it plays out.
In Doctor Who, everybody has a British accent because of the universal translator.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's more Deus Ex Machina. Thank you for fixing that for us.
Or
I've heard
Babelfish.
that, but it's also Doctor Who's also a family show, so I'm not gonna hold that to the same standard. But yeah, I really, 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 really enjoyed this episode. If you had done an episode, a movie or a show that just was this story without anything that had to do with Atticus, and it was a different character, like if you just showed me this episode out of context, it'd still been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a really good show. Really good episode. Again, they keep upping it every episode, so I'm looking forward to what they bring to the table next week.
Yeah. Well, why don't we go ahead and give our final thoughts and grades? Betty, why don't you start us off on this one?
For this one, definitely again an A+. A++. It was a beautiful episode. I mean, just marvelous. I'm very pleased with it. I think they did a good job telling the story of, Atticus and some of the hard things he had to do. And, they're showing not just, America's hardships, but, other things that we had our hands in causing hardships as well. These are things that we need to talk about. So definitely an A++, and let's see what they have for us next week. Maya?
Definitely, I have to agree. This is a very, very strong episode. It was. It could be a standalone, and like you said, and would still be just as enthralling, just as rewarding to view. And I really also enjoyed the showcasing of, things are not so pleasant, especially during times of war, and how it affected, seemingly just one random person, but not so random as it turns out when it comes to their importance. But yeah, this was a great episode. I have to give it an A+. It was very, very good and beautiful cinematography, especially that final shot at the end. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, goosebumps.
Yeah, I'm looking up right now who directed this episode because it had to if it's their first time, holy shit. But I mirror what you guys said. It's one of my favorite episodes of the season so far, and I watch it again happily. Like, it was that fucking good. There's not enough good things to say about this episode. It's a perfect little piece of enjoyment. Like, it's I really like stories that kind of run the gamut of emotions, and this definitely ran the gamut of emotions: fear, sadness, happiness, elatedness, mystery, confusion. Like, it's just all over the board, and I loved that it kept you guessing what the next scene was going to give you, and I'm just so good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's directed by Helen Shaver. She's best known for a movie in 1985 called Desert Hearts, the Amityville horror movie in 1979, the Poltergeist series. She's an actress mostly. Let's see what she has directed. Two episodes of Snowpiercer, 1 episode of Westworld, 6 episodes of Vikings, 3 episodes of Orphan Black.
Yeah, she's got some good stuff under her belt.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, absolutely. Shit, yeah, goddamn. Okay, well, give her more shit to do. Give her more shit to direct. Fuck. All right, guys. Well, next week we're going to be reviewing episode 7 of Lovecraft Country, episode 6 of The Boys, and the movie. Is it a movie or a series? I think it's just a movie, right?
It's a series.
On Netflix?
It's a series.
We're going to review the series Ratched, which is a prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So I'm looking forward to that. I think we're all going to watch it anyway.
One of my favorite movies. I love that movie.
But on that note, why don't we go ahead and do the link dump, Maya, if you will, please.
Yeah. Well, if you look down below the notes of the episode, you will see links to where you can follow us on social media for the show. There is the Redbubble store, but you know what? Probably going to have a closeout sale on that merch because that's getting retired. We got new artwork coming. Talked to the artist this week. He's got the new updated picture for me. So hopefully he's going to be able to get the rest of our artwork done. Greg's is done, but mine and Betty's are not. So hopefully we can have that new artwork for our anniversary episode. But
It
as
looks
for...
way cooler than I actually am. I'm just saying. Way cooler than I actually am.
That's not hard to do. But...
All right. You know what?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
How about that, Maya? Podcast canceled?
No,
like that?
No,
right.
no. Anyway, as for the show itself, you can join the Discord server. We're always active on Discord. I know the server's quiet sometimes, but hey, join it. You can message us directly there. Somebody will always be around to answer. Usually myself or Greg, but Betty has gotten a little active in there too, and that's cool.
Yeah,
you can follow the show on
school, so I'm a little taken up by time lately.
Oh, that's okay.
But I try.
I have lots of free time.
Yes.
What happens when you're a stay-at-home parent and you don't have to homeschool them?
Yeah, well, this year, thankfully, most of our stuff's online, so I am grateful for that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The Instagram and Twitter links for the show are down below, as are the official Facebook page and the discussion group page, which we really need to get that more active, Greg.
Yeah.
As for me, if you want to follow me at personal links, I'm on Facebook under the name Maya Dawn Fisher. My Instagram and Twitter are linked to those. You can follow me at any of those if you wish. And that's me. Michelle, do you have anywhere that you would like, if anybody wanted to follow you on social media, that you would like to throw out there, or not?
Just follow me on Twitter. I put some batshit things out there, so that's pretty much it now. Hashtag, or not hashtag, at gotta go Michelle. That's me. That's pretty much it.
Or hashtag dang old frick face.
Dang old frick face.
Well, Betty, what about you?
Mostly on Facebook. Betty Badger Ogletree. Twitter, Bright Betty. And Instagram, Petrichor Betty. Just look for Betty.
Awesome. All right. And Greg, where can people find you on social media?
Chub Rock Geek on all social medias. We're going to be doing a lot more of the Jackbox streams like we did this last Saturday, which was a lot of fun. Come mid-October, we'll be playing the new party pack, which I'm very excited about. So if that's something you're interested in, check that out. But yeah, Chub Rock Geek everywhere.
Awesome. All right. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on and participating with us in this wonderful conversation. It was a blast. So it sucks that it took so long to actually get you on here.
Yeah.
As long as we've known you and how our show came about.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to come on, and I just, one thing I've always been looking forward to is to come on to a show with Greg and just tell him that Sonic is better than Mario. So
you're wrong. You're wrong. You're just wrong. It's not even a matter of opinion. You're just wrong.
Anyways, I've done my job. Bye.
Excellent. Well, let's
Just
get
wrong.
out of here then.
100% wrong. Nope, he's wrong. Or she's wrong. My bad. She's wrong.
Oh, look at it. Angry Greg just uses incorrect pronouns.
My testosterone.
I honestly did that to prove a point, just to prove a point that it's really hard to keep your head straight when you're angry.
And he's only mildly irritated.
I know, right?
Mildly. Anyway, yeah, guys. Like I said, everybody listening, check out. Watch Lovecraft Country. If you're not watching it, you're missing out big time. The Boys
Really are.
but you have a whole season ahead of that to watch season 2. But if you haven't watched The Boys and you're kind of tired of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and DC, like this will definitely it's a big middle finger, all that stuff, and it's fantastic. But also watch Ratchet and come join us next week. But I think that's about it. Yeah, that's it. I was just trying to think of anything else. Yeah, so we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Peace, love, and Polly Pops.
Take care, everybody.